This video is to review lesson 8.1. How can you write a ratio as a percent? So percent means per 100. So keep that in mind when we're talking about percent. So 0% means 0 out of 100. 25% means 25 out of 100. 50% means 50 out of 100. And 100% is 100 out of 100. So a percentage is a ratio of a number to 100. This symbol is used to indicate a percent. So if we are talking about 6%, it would mean 6 out of 100. So if I wanted to show that on the grid, I would color in 6 out of the 100 grid square. Write each percent as a fraction in simplest form and as a decimal. So I'm going to first do some coloring for 10%. So 10% would mean 10 out of my 100. So I would color in 10 of the grid squares. And then I can write that 10 out of 100. To simplify this, I can divide both numbers by 10, the greatest common factor. And so the simplest form of 10% is 1/10. If I want to write this as a decimal, I can write it as 10 hundredths, just like that first fraction shows, or 1/10. All right, next one, 99%. That means we have every cube but one colored in on our grid. So I'll shade that in. When we write this one as a fraction, we write it as 99 out of 100. That cannot be simplified. And when I read this, 99 hundredths, I'm able to see what the decimal would look like. 17%. So when I look at 17%, that means I would have 17 of my grid squares colored in. So I colored in one group of 10 and 7 more. When I write that, I write it as 17 out of 100, or 17 hundredths. That can't be simplified, and so the decimal looks like this, 17 hundredths. All right, write each percent as a fraction in simplest form and a decimal. So 35%, remember percent means per 100, so I'm going to write it as a ratio comparing it to 100. And then I can simplify by dividing by the greatest common factor of 35 and 100, which gets me to 7/20. That's my simplified fraction. If I need to write it as a decimal, I can just read this fraction, 35 hundredths. And here is my 35 hundredths as a decimal. All right, let's look at this one, 100%. So again, I can write that as a fraction, 100 100ths. If I want to simplify that, that really just means 1. As a decimal, I can write 1, or I could write it 1 0/10. 25%. So I'm going to write this as a ratio to 100, 25 hundredths. And then to simplify, I divide by the greatest common factor, which is 25, and this equals 1/4. My decimal is 25 hundredths. I can just read that original fraction to see what it would look like as a decimal. Last one, 56%. So I'm going to first write it as a ratio compared to 100, because percent means per 100. Simplifying by dividing by the greatest common factor. And then again, I can write this as a decimal, if I just read this, 56 hundredths. Here is my decimal, 56 hundredths. Write each decimal as a fraction or percent. So we write each decimal or fraction as a percent. So we have this decimal, we read it 3 hundredths. So if I think about that, it's 3 out of 100, which means it would be 3%. Next one, I read this 92 hundredths, so that's what it looks like, and so it would be equal to 92%. And my last one, 18 hundredths, so here's what it looks like, 18 hundredths, which means 18%. All right, now we have some fractions we're going to write as percents. To do that, we want to change them into ratios compared to 100, so I can easily see the percent. So To go from 5 to 100, I have to multiply by 20. So I'm going to multiply by 20 on the top part of my ratio, and I get 40 hundredths. 40 hundredths equals the percent, 40%, 40 out of 100. Next one, okay, again, I'm going to write this as a fraction compared to 100, or a ratio compared to 100. So I have to think 25 times 4 will get me to 100. So 23 times 4, that is 92. So 92 hundredths, oh, we had that one up before, that equals 92%. Okay, and the last one we're going to look at, 7/10. Again, I'm going to write this as a ratio compared to 100 because percent means per 100. So 10 times 10 to get to 100, 7 times 10, and I end up with 70. So this would be 70%, 70 out of 100. After reading a book for English class, 100 students were asked whether or not they enjoyed it. 29/5 of the class did not like the book. How many students liked the book? So we're going to look at this as out of 100 to figure out percent that did not like the book. So then we can figure out who did like the book. So I have 9/25. There's my fraction. Those are who did not like the book. I'm going to put that into a ratio out of 100 to get a percent. So 25 times 4 gets me to 100. 9 times 4 gets me to 36. So 36% did not like the book. To figure out how many did like the book, I have to take, if we're talking about the whole group of students, it's 100%. We're going to subtract the percent of students who did not like it to get the percent who did like the book. So when I subtract, I get that 64% liked the book. That was what I was trying to answer. All right, your job today is to do the lesson 8.1 homework in HMH. Make sure you turn it in, your score in Canvas when you're done. And then if you need to finish either of these activities, so the lesson 8.1 exit ticket in Canvas or the IXL assignment S1, what percent is illustrated, please do that and make sure you get those finished in Canvas. Have a great day.